Hey, good morning, everybody. It's a little bit past 11 on a Tuesday here in what's an overcast sunny day. It's not that in every part of the world. My next guest is coming to us from Bali. We did have a few technical issues, mostly on my end, none of which is beyond my guest's ends. As he says with a big smile, we can see those shiny teeth. Now, let me just first say that Aaron has been someone who's been in my life for a long time. He's one of those friends that seem to can go off and just do his own stuff for a little while, come back, and he and I just click like that. So before I introduce him, actually, let me introduce him. Aaron was originally born in Zambia. Aaron moved to Australia to study law and commerce at the University of Sydney. And over the last 2 decades, he's gained experience in vocational educational training. And after failing and succeeding in numerous startups, his experience led him to found the Leaders of Tomorrow, which is a fantastic organization. It consists of 4 profitable companies. And during his journey, Aaron recognized that celebrating great entrepreneurs and honoring entrepreneurship is exactly his calling. After you have a look at some of the things that he's done and listening to this particular interview, you'll understand why. Our promise to you today is Aaron's going to show you the 4 jumps that every entrepreneur must do in order to achieve freedom. Please join me in welcoming Aaron. G'day, mate. How are you?
G'day. Very good. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here, Glenn. It's been looking forward to this for 20 years almost, maybe.
Hey, how long is since you've said g'day?
Oh, that's a good question. 5 years. 5 years, actually. So that felt really good.
So you're coming to us from Bali right now, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Bali, South Bali for sure. I've been here 5 years.
It's always hard to tell which part of the world you're in. You're just one of those global travelers that, hey, yeah, I'm just over here in France. Hey, I'm in Germany. Yeah. Hey, I'm in Australia. So we're going to get into, what you're going to train us on in a moment. But for those people who don't know you, and I've just read out your bio, but tell us who Aaron is. Aaron the person.
Wow. Aaron the person. That's a really good question. In a nutshell, I would like to say now, since all this pandemic and I think the whole world's gone crazy a little bit, a lot of people losing businesses, but I think you and I both agree that at the center of it, I'm really a connector. I love to meet people, particularly exchange ideas, share cultures, just learn from people who are doing things better. And that could be anything from business all the way through to life, health, wealth, I'm just curious about people. So I would say Aaron is a very curious person, Zambian born. I'm definitely still a farmer at heart. So I'm finding myself opening another company shortly you'll hear about in agribusiness. And Glenn, to be fair, I really think that, being of service to other people when you've kind of got to a place where you feel stable and secure in yourself, regardless of whether you have money or not, is one of the greatest gifts I think I've been fortunate to have learned in Australia. That just reminded me more that I'm also proud to be an African business person, but I'm proud to be a global citizen, and I think for me, traveling around the world, I think we have more in common with each other than we have different. So with everything said and done during this pandemic, I've that really nice quiet place where I just think, I want to make a difference. I want to teach people what I know, what I'm good at, but I probably don't know as much as I should know, but I'm really curious to learn more from other people. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm all about. A bit crazy too, slightly. I like to try new things and figure that out. But I hope so. I don't. Some relationships in my past might disagree with that, but I would like to think majority agree.
I think that's probably at the time that they learnt the lesson, and they'll revisit that. They'll shape them. But hey, listen, you also say that you're a minimalist. You're the only second person that I've met who calls themselves I'm a minimalist. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I love traveling so much that I call myself really looking at ways of being efficient. And so I also kind of dabble. I live in Southeast Asia, so Taoism, Buddhism, and a couple of other arts, I'll call it ways of living, have really kind of affected me over time. But to me, minimalism isn't about reducing the things you have. It's actually more about just having a good conversation with yourself about this one quote that I love so much is the things we tend to buy end up owning us. say you buy a car, you got to maintain it. So if you don't buy it, then you don't have to maintain it, so it doesn't own you as much. If you have a pet, for example, you end up owning it, but it owns you because you got to take it for a walk, and every time it's sick, do this and this. Children, relationships, it's all the same. So what a lot of people feel is like, well, that's a really sad way to live. But what I've come to find is when you have a good relationship of qualifying things before you take ownership of them, whatever they are, even a business, you tend to then have more room for things you do love, because then you're always looking at this high quality consumption conversation. So you and I talked about your brand new car, which I love, by the way, because we're both Porsche fans. I'd rather take my time and buy a higher quality car that's not going to break down, that's going to make me feel proud of it, and I might hold on to it for 10 more years or 20 because I care for it and it appreciates in value, than me buying, say, four Toyotas that I'll neglect because I don't appreciate them. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And so it's really more about this high quality consumption attitude. And you find that, I can travel on 7 kgs and go for a whole year on tour, and I don't have to check in any luggage. But that time efficiency, whether I'm in first class, business class or not, it's just like just really living a very high quality life, and then not being burdened by some of the responsibilities of luggage in whatever form they show up, psychological, emotionally, or spiritually. So that's kind of what I learned from the Southeast Asians, and I really kind of taken that home.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I find it so easy to pick up from last conversation. And I'd say that most people that I have that sort of time duration in between, we just seem to jump along the peaks of what's been happening in our lives. But you and I seem to be able to get into just normal everyday conversation, we just spoke yesterday. And in saying that about the Porsches, I washed mine in the rain. And my neighbor came to me the other day and sort of said, Glenn, it's raining. And I sort of said, yeah, that's true. It is raining, but I'm still cleaning the dirt off it. And he said, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, mate, it's a very special car. And the moment that I don't treat it like a special car means it's just, it's everyday sort of stuff, and it's not. And so I'm really serving and honoring my purchase, the car itself, the way that it performs, everything. I think it's that intention that you go into things. So it sounds like I could learn more. So tell me, who are the people that you serve right now? Who are the people that you're working with? I mean, I featured on in your bio that you're really about entrepreneur startups or wannabes. But that's not just who you serve. Tell me who are the businesses you serve.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think if we had more time, I'll go into it. But I felt like when you and I met, and you remember I was a very big sponge student, trying out a lot of online businesses, different industries. I would just go into pretty much everything just to get the skills. I was always after skills. I was very aware that I had a huge skills gap, particularly as a refugee asylum seeker in Australia, as you know. So I just wanted to learn. But what I found was some of us couldn't get the jobs because of let's just call them barriers. Could be language, literacy, racial, mental, poverty mindset. I mean, the list is endless. But so when these people would get qualifications from my vocational education training company, we still couldn't place them in the jobs. And that was the end goal for me, at least. It wasn't just to give them a certificate. So I had to then change my mindset into creating careers for them. And I said, well, why don't you just get into your own business? You guys used to run cattle shops, used to do milk, used to do food or clothes or whatever, and just start your own business, because at least there's room for you to do that as an immigrant here in Australia, or there in Australia, sorry. And so it was really the startup person that I felt comfortable to teach this, because I myself at that time was in that jump one I called the professional, where I was just a teacher, left the law industry, started teaching these vocational education courses, and I loved it. But I was still getting an income as a contractor consultant from another company. But I knew that if I could teach these guys some basic skills, they then could do that in their own industries with the skills they already had from their countries of origin, and just translate that into their own self-employment, so to say. So I felt comfortable. Whereas when I met people like you, you're already a very successful person, multiple chapters in BNI, for example. I knew I wasn't there, so I couldn't feel like to coach them, because so many people get a coaching certificate in business and think they know it all. I was like, no, I think I've passed the employment stage. I'm now a self-employed person, so I can teach people how to get to where I was. And I'm a very conscious person in doing that. So I started I guess, encouraging that. But now, fast forward the story 8 years later, I found some of these people became their own practitioners, and doctors and lawyers had issues with, the business administration arms of their companies, and they started asking me for advice. So I started coaching self-employed people who are generally practitioners, and these are my ideal clients still. And then some of these ended up becoming like a dentist guy here in Bali has 200 locations. He has 1,000 staff. So he started asking me different questions going, well, how do I scale this? How do I lead my company better? How do we run businesses where I'm not always dealing with the day-to-day people issues? So I dove into that because I also started expanding my company to have 15 employees now full-time all over the world. And he's like, well, how do you run it remotely? I was like, well, I use this tool and this tool. And it's like, oh, I just never thought about it. But for me, it was necessity. So I started coaching more executives who are the senior leadership team and business owners that basically have a lot of staff. And that just kind of grew from there. So that's what we're doing at the moment. It's just a whole entrepreneurial sweep at the moment. But yeah,
isn't it funny how you came across apps or ways to solve a particular problem, and it was just you moving forward in dealing with your own company, and too often that a lot of people don't see that value, that learning. I mean, because you would have tried a couple of different apps to find the one that worked for you, then you've got to master that one, the hours in learning about it, and then to really ingrain it so they're going, you know what, it's really working really well now. So there's the learning of the self of the app, but you can actually leverage on that, and then you became training that to other people. Wow, that's fantastic. And I just love it how there's a dentist there with 1,000 employees who comes and says, how do I scale this? I mean, most people would sit there and going, you are already scaled.
Exactly. Exactly. A brilliant guy, really super smart. So yeah, but in Indonesia, and this is what I love about here, is like, manpower is the business here. You can afford it.
Correct.
The cost of labor and living is cheaper. So you can really rely on people, but you probably have to have a lot of social skills. And that's the biggest gap I find in people who are maybe too tech heavy, is they don't know how to build communities. And that's been my biggest mission, is just having the whole entrepreneurial journey and then connecting these people with each other, because what one person knows, someone else can learn from. And I found that's the powers within the group. So that's pretty much my legacy now. It's like I'm just trying to get the whole journey and throw as many industries in as possible and then share best practice.
So if you are watching this live, I'd like you to comment and just write live on whichever channel you are. And if you're watching the replay, I want you to just write replay, and I'll come back from time to time if you've got any questions. We're going to go into a stage soon where Aaron's going to share the 4 sort of jumps that every business owner or entrepreneur needs to make. But Aaron, in your journey of setting up businesses, what do you think has been your greatest challenge, and what did you do to overcome it? How did you see that and then sort of went, wow, I need to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people have been asking me that question because I've also really kind of, now we're up to almost like 6 brands within Leaders of Tomorrow, and they're quite diverse in 3 industries. But I would say the common denominator of why it took me, and this is a funny part, when I look at my time scale, when people see I've got a timeline, I think it's called a timeline. It took me, out of the 8 years since I'd like jumped and really said, I'm going to do this and there's no going back. It's I guess the ability to believe that I was worthy of success. That would be the biggest challenge for me. And maybe it could have been my background coming up from Africa, being a refugee, just always, feeling like maybe I didn't deserve success. So what that did is that it really forced me to care more about what other people's opinions were of me than what I really thought of myself or where I wanted to be. Does that make sense?
It sure does, mate. And if you're listening to this right now, I really want you to share, because most people don't dive this internal with themselves. All right. So Aaron's sort of saying that his biggest challenge was that he wasn't worthy of success. So when you're living in a space like you're not worthy, even when you do get success, you don't recognize it. You never acknowledge yourself for it. And you might go out there and pursuing and buying nice things, but of course it's not enough. And that's not successful. Your definition is not successful. So, wow, that's very interesting. And so what did you do to overcome that?
Well, I think you know what I did, because the first thing I've always learned, and this is a tribute to my culture, is in our culture, we always seek elders, and in the Western context, it would be seeking mentors. So first thing I did is I went out looking for people who had at least three things. One, they had the ability to make me think differently. It's one thing to be a cocky African guy who has a law degree, thinks he knows it all, but to have Glenn come and go, hey, stop thinking and start thinking different. I remember that conversation. You probably don't remember this.
Yeah, no, I do.
It just, I think I was in my 20s those days, 21, 22, I can't remember. But I was just like, what do you mean? But just the fact that you challenged me to think about that. No one has ever really gone down that path. Usually they would be like, you know what you should do, da, 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 da. And like I said, because I was battling with self-worth, it was very empowering to take me back to myself and go, well, why am I doing these things? And is there a better way to do it? And that's the ability to think different. The second thing around the mentorship, again, it still comes back to that as the solution, is, people like you were role modeling the way for me. There were different ways of success. You were in this place where you were telling me, Aaron, rather than trying to take things from people, why don't you just like get in the business of connecting and giving referrals to other people? And I was like, what do you mean? I don't have money first. So first I should gain, then I'll give. Because no, you gain by giving. I think you said something like that. And I was just like, that's just a different way of selling. Because I was also getting into sales those days to learn my sales skills to articulate. I was like, wow. So you're telling me the most successful people are actually people who give more than they take. And then I was like, that was revolutionary. And I saw you doing that. Through the BNI and not having this competitive acumen, which was kind of very big back in the days in 2000 in Australia. You're this really alternative person, making me wake up too early, coming to, I don't know, somewhere on the train lines, and I'm just seeing a bunch of really highly successful people referring each other business. This was not the law firm I came from. That got me thinking. And then the last was, you really had courage to challenge me in a way that made me, have these courageous conversations with myself. Like, wow, Glenn really sees what's also going wrong for me. It's not just kissing my ass and telling me what to do, but you had the confidence and the courage in the self-worth to say, no, I think that's wrong. You need to kind of look into this. Or why don't you read more books? Or why don't you at least start investing in yourself and stop being cheap? I don't know. You say it in different ways, but I got the message and it hurt. It really hurt. But that's a mentor to me, someone who has the ability to be completely honest with you on what they think you have, because we can't see the picture when we're in the frame, right? And so you could see things. Whereas in my circle of friends, I was the main person with the experience. I was the young 16-year-old who was living by themselves as a refugee, and my Australian friends were still their parents. So I was the place, they'll come to me for advice, but I never went anywhere else. And so mentorship for me is the biggest thing that kind of started building my self-worth. And then being associated with success made me go, maybe I could want that as well, because I see the methodology of achieving it. Does that make sense? So that was huge for me. Game changer.
Do you know, I wanted to, because I had that thinking too. And I thought, like when I earn X amount of dollars, I'll be able to donate, large sums of money. Yeah. And then I thought, how's that going to work? And someone challenged me. And I took that into being a little project and being of giving 10% of my earnings every year. So if I earned 100,000, I gave 10,000. If I earned 200,000, I gave 20,000. And so it was always proportionate. So it was more in my DNA of thinking just to give, right? Rather than like, when I get here, then I can do this. And what I learned was so many stories along the way. Because, if you fast forward your life, then it's you just about to die, looking back at your life going, hey, do I have any regrets? Do I have any things that I should have done? Because you're never going to get there. Because when you get there, you realize, oh, now I want this, or now I want to do this. Okay, so you've three great points, by the way, and thanks very much. It encourages me to challenge more people and just not go with the status quo because somebody said something. Just to sort of saying, hey, Aaron has thoughts and I have thoughts, but I'm going to get him to really challenge his own thinking just by posing a question, not telling him what to do, but just sort of saying, hey, what about this? And then you went away and did all the work and sort of came and grew all these amazing organizations. So tell us, what are you doing right now to grow the business?
Oh my. In
Yeah.
summary.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the beautiful thing about our journey, and maybe this is I know what was my failures, but I think it's also quite important to acknowledge your gifts. And a lot of us don't believe we have them until we're exposed enough to different things that show us where our inclinations are. That's a whole conversation in itself. But my inclination has always been to be a serial entrepreneur because I've always had this. Look, I don't know if I can swear on the show, but I've had shit handed to me in so many different ways.
It's my fucking show. Of course you can.
Fuck yeah. So we speak same language. That's fine. So it's more that, you know, what would the universe, if we call it that, fate, destiny, if you believe in it or not. I live in Southeast Asia, so sue me. You know, we're all connected. But I've come to look backwards in my life and go, well, why is it out of all the 20 million Zambians, a weird Australian missionary found our village, picked me, got me to school, got me through some things, did some paperwork stuff, got me on this journey, ended up in Australia, and I was then assigned to help all the refugee asylum seekers from Burma, you know, just everywhere. Why did all these things happen? Why did I go through divorce? Why did I end up having to fight and have multiple jobs at the same time just to pay for my school fees? At the time when I 2006, I got my residency, but then I had to get into this international fee thing, and that was just really difficult. And I had to go through all this and keep a job and keep doing this. So I started now, rather than thinking life was happening to me, it changed to life was happening for me. And then it became very exciting. So long story short, what I'm doing now is really trying to equip, inspire, and connect entrepreneurs, because it's been an enterprising pursuit for me to follow my dreams. And I knew I had to get the skills, I had to find the opportunities, I had to find the mentors, like I said, and I had to then look for the places where I could monetize myself. But that journey then allowed me to see certain patterns in you and other people of, okay, what's really universally applicable, which doesn't require skin color, like people are making it a big deal these days, or age or gender or any of these things that I don't participate in. I'm just a global citizen. So, but what can I take? And so it allowed me to create Leaders of Tomorrow as a concept, but then understand that I probably wanted to tap into all these experiences and have multiple businesses that can take people through the whole journey from ideation all the way through to traction in their business, where they can either choose to exit the business, which means you sell it and you're not involved, or you just become a stakeholder and someone else operates the business on a day-to-day. And this was fascinating to me. So I started that journey on my own. I'm now near the last jump on that, and I'll share that later. But what I'm working on is step one. I've realized first, you got to put people into an inner circle. And so I have a company called Niche Meetup, which is it's an events company. But one of the most coolest love childs I've created in that brand is an inner circle platform where I share these 4 leadership jumps in business, but I curate people by putting them into peer groups of 3 to 5 all over the world in 5 continents. And so you're getting an artist in Germany sharing with a yoga teacher in Bali, sharing with an Indonesian person in Flores who's an artisan, and then another person in Kenya who's a programmer trying to start a rock tech company. You know, it's just this, but the universal language is still the same. You have to have grit. You have to have a vision. You have to have a disciplined routines. You need mentorship around structure of things that work and measure your results. You need to stop the bullshit and associate with people who tell it to you straight, you know. And this is where the fascination is for me, because once they know who they are and the fact that they want to go on this gritty journey, they then understand that they have to think different to the masses. And this alone, Glenn, has been one of my best gifts, because from there I can then say, great, you need to do a business stage assessment, like a health check. I think I'm more of a physician than a business coach, to be honest. We diagnose these people and then we drop them into the incubation program. If they haven't had a validated brand, they got to build their brand. And then this is everything from lead gen conversion to the structure of the business. But once they do that, then they're going to come to someone like you in BNI to learn how to present for themselves, pitching, communication. How do you hold a one-to-one meeting? How do you get key partners? How do you manage your contacts? How do you refer as the gift rather than the taking? How do you track your relationships? And then that's the acceleration, because you can accelerate faster through organic referral marketing than you can through any Facebook ad if you have no budget. So the startups now have no excuse to say, well, I'm not making any sales. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Become a person of influence, and that takes us 3 to 6 months. Then once you're making at least 100K or so, you can't be the chef, the cook, the waiter, the cashier, and the concierge. You need a team. So we say, great, that 100,000 you thought you're making money, 80,000 is going into salaries now, and you're going to live on 20. And so become a minimalist, because you need to learn about the quality of money and not extend it to prove to the Joneses or anything. Just earn your keep, because you're building an asset, and then they move into the traction program, which is the third journey. And so that's what I'm really working on first, is just building this community. And my goal, Glenn, in the next 10 years is to make it 20 million people, entrepreneurs around the world, who share in the same common values of equipping, connecting, and sharing ideas and skills with each other, because I think together we can complete, and COVID has taught us the best businesses at the moment are the businesses that had relationships with their clients, not the ones that were just making it cheap, and so I want to just push that along more. So that's what I'm really focused on and passionate about at the moment. Does that make sense? I don't know if I answered that, but I could go on about it. I'm super passionate.
No, it does. I asked my daughter this morning, I overheard her talking to a friend, and she said to her friend, you don't need to know what you want to do. You just have to begin. And I was walking past her room and I said, wow, that's profound, sweetie. Where did you learn that? And she turned straight up at me and said, you told me that. And I went, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So she's now repeating it, not like it's hers, but she just wanted her friend. And you just mentioned it a couple of times in there. It was just your journey that you were going along, that you acquired the skills and saw challenges and problems, and then dealt with those, and then were then turning that into a business and training other people. So you didn't know when you first started back in Zambia. You didn't know that when you started getting educated. You didn't know that when you came out as a refugee. You didn't know that when you were doing law. None of this you knew, but you were actually building up all the skill sets necessary to take on the role that you're doing now. The passion. All right, well, so let's dive into it now. I call it the lights, camera, action part of the show. Why don't you dive in and tell us, what are those 4 jumps that every entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur needs to make in order to achieve freedom?
Oh, brilliant. I'd love to. I'm a teacher, so if it's okay with you, I'd love to share just that one screen. Is that possible on this app? Because I can just share visually.
Yeah, so is it something that you could send to me, or take a screenshot and send to me? I don't know how I would.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it says here share screen. I was going to click that button, but if I can't,
yeah, so click that button then, and see if you can.
Screen share is easy to manage. Yep, I'm always testing things. So you know me, I'm an app guy.
And I'm just going to go, you know what? No problem. Just go for it.
I'll be the first one to pop your cherry on it. There we go. Can you see it?
Here we are.
Boom.
It's come up. So let me just do this. How cool is that? Learning stuff.
There you go. I'm happy to help. I'll always press that button. That's the problem with me. It's like, oh, this really works.
The student becomes the teacher.
Yeah, that's it. So how long do I have? I only need about 30 seconds, honestly. I can do a 30-second version or 3 hours version. So which one do you prefer?
Well, we'll do halfway in between. We'll take 10, 15 minutes on this.
I think 5 is because I'd rather questions from the audience or you about this, because it's not new, but I also share. I'm a big believer in giving credit where it's due, because like you said, I just started the journey. I've been mentored Glenn, by you. I've been mentored by Robert Kiyosaki. I've been mentored by Tony Robbins. I've been mentored by Zig Ziglar, sales training, Brian Tracy. I can go on, and I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for coaching, because I really believe it's a hack, to do it. But here's where we're going. So where this started kind of incubating for me was when I was working under Robert Kiyosaki in the property game at that time, and he had what he called the cash flow quadrant. So you see some similarities from that, but what I took from it is the concept of the 4 stages of how people make money. And I thought, I wonder if that could apply to business, and it actually does, because I've proven it across 540 brands. It's exactly the same. So I'll use myself as an example, but you guys, whoever's listening, and yourself, Glenn, I'm sure you can verify this to be true or not. But what I find is the first stage is called the professional, and that's where you're basically in a job working for someone else. So you do the job, right? So most of us, for me, I won't use law because I never really enjoyed that industry too much, but I learned a lot as well in terms of contracts. But I was still not content with law, but I got paid quite good money, but I had to put in some crazy hours. So in there, I call it the incubator, because you're needing to get the apprentice. You're working under someone else. You're trying to learn those skills. You're looking at best practice for industry leaders in there. But the best example I can give you is a teacher. I got into doing a teaching certificate after law school, and I fell in love with it because I had to get a teaching certificate for me to teach the life skills I wanted to teach to the refugee asylum seekers on weekends. So here's me working as a teacher full-time in a company, a training company. Then on the weekends, I started working for myself as a contractor and invoicing to community centers. And so I moved from just being a teacher professional, getting an income, which is trading my 8 hours a day or whatever it was for X amount for salary, which is where you're learning everything, but you're learning more about one skill, to then moving into self-employed, which is the acceleration stage, because now you got maybe, I've got a weekend of Saturday, Sunday to work, which is 16 hours, let's say. But because I'm self-employed, they'll pay me a little bit more money because they assume I'm working after my own tax, super, etc., etc. Yeah, superannuation for Australia, if this is just in Australia. So you end up making a little bit more money for the same time. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah. Gary Vee talks about that stage a lot.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah. Oh,
sort of
exactly.
You've got to do whatever you need to do. If you're hustling on the weekend, you're still working 9 to 5 for a job, just do it. That's what it takes. Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe just to give a color code to what you just said, and Gary is another mentor of mine, I love his books, is, the green is your main hustle, and then the blue becomes your side hustle, as he calls it. Yeah. So it's really beautiful if you can do both. But what you're trying to do is then replace your main hustle to make your side hustle the main hustle later. And that happens anything from 6 months to 12. But what most people don't understand is the difference between a professional and a self-employed. Is professional only has to turn up, do their part, say, for my case, teach a class, I get paid. But a self-employed person has to then go do the administration, the legals, look after the books, the next thing you got to do sales and marketing. And those are the places where a lot of people with qualifications fail in self-employed, because they don't want to sell. They don't want to learn how to make their brand more valuable. Make sense? So that's why you need this acceleration, where you are the job, but then you also have to then wear more hats. We call them minimum 6 at this stage. And that's where you see I put stages 1 to 5 in the green zone. That's things like getting your ideas clear, prototyping your concept, because I'm a minimalist. I believe in that. Don't use $100 and use it all on marketing. Use 10% of it, try out some stuff, then use the next $10 for the next innovation. Keep changing, keep improving. That's what we call them stage 1 to 5 as incubator. But you're not like telling people you're validated yet. But when you get to accelerator, you're now like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know how to make $1 out of my efforts. Now, how do I make this $1 $100,000 basically? And you don't go employ people. You just keep building your client base. Yeah. Then the third jump is where I now, and this is funny, people say to me, no, I'm a practitioner, lawyer, and I'm a business owner. In my program, would say, no, you're not, you're just self-employed. Why? You just bought yourself a job. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the question is, in 6 months' time, if you went on holiday, would you make more money than you did if you're sitting in your office? If the answer is no, you're not a business owner. That's the difference.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the difference between self-employed and business owner? You end up spending 80 to 90% of your time managing people, and let me say it better. You end up creating systems in your business to help you scale, and then you help lead your people. And too often people don't lead their people. They just say, hey, here's a job, you do it and figure it out. You actually need to give them systems that are tested and worked out from the self-employed stage. And then you start to delegate those systems to them because you've done your time. Then you elevate to a higher level of actually being a business owner. And so what happens there is you're paying more salaries, but you're making more money, because it's not about how much time you're spending. It's how many people can actually drive the technical work in your business. And we call that stage 7 to 8. Then the last one, and this really pisses off a lot of entrepreneurs before the COVID times, but now I think COVID's done me a favor, is actually show us who are the true entrepreneurs. True entrepreneurs can pivot. into wherever the problem is, find out where the opportunities are. They have the ability to sell. They have also the ability with the tested experiences or systems to say, right, we'll take on another business bolted onto this to add value to our client base, and they triple their sales. So they're no longer necessarily building a team. They're basically using their business that's already got a team and systems in place and validation and reputation perhaps, and then they're just buying and acquiring more assets, more businesses to basically increase more value in the marketplace as they go. So they're trading money for money. As you would, the perfect example would be Virgin Airlines before they went bankrupt, of course. They would buy Virgin Catering, which is just a catering company down the road. They'll buy it because they know they need the catering for the airline service. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So that to me is a true entrepreneur, because at that point, you're no longer trying to work hard. You're really making jumps in opportunities, negotiation skills, conflict resolution, acquisitions. You're having very different conversations as you would if you're busy in the business as an operator, business owner. So that's basically it, Glenn, in terms of the 4 jumps. I share that with people, and I love it because now when I assess people before I even give them any coaching or business advice, I only give advice now based on whatever position people are at. So if someone is already at the beginning stages of their business, not making money, I say, listen, you just need advice in step 1 to 5. Don't worry about scale. Don't worry about Facebook. Build yourself in these areas. Validate your product. Make sure it's making enough money in a small scale. Then we can talk about accelerating, because what 10x is what money is, in my opinion. People talk about 10x your business, 10x your business, but I always tell people, what's 10x of 0? You know the answer to that.
Correct.
If you're not valid, why would you accelerate yourself? It makes no sense. So it's really
what I like about it, Aaron, is you've thought about it from both perspectives, both from the student or the person receiving the information, but also you've got a roadmap from the role of the coach or yourself or your organization.
Teacher, yeah. That's right.
Correct. And it's very, very simple blueprint for people to sort of go, oh, yeah, I get that. Conceptually, I can understand it as to why you're only giving me this part of the puzzle. I now can relax because I know that the other stages are to come, but I just need to focus my energies on here. And it's like having multiple tabs open on a screen.
Yeah.
You're not going to achieve what you want to do unless you remove all distractions, focus on the things you need to focus on, right? And sometimes that's hard because we're so used to 7 seconds thinking about something, and then our mind jumps to something else, and then we're focusing on something else. And sort of going, well, you're not going to get traction on the first idea unless you execute that really well. And by the way, the more time you spend in that, the faster you will accelerate to the next level, but you don't need to worry about the next level just right yet.
Absolutely.
So
and that was the hardest thing about my coaching program, because there was no value in telling people about back to, you see the word comes up again, minimalistic focus. It's high quality consumption for us. So if I give them that perspective and they get the result, then they deserve to know more information. And whereas in our industry, unfortunately, anyone's a coach giving you generic advice because it's safe, it sounds good, but no one's being assessed. No one's being diagnosed so that the right advice is pertinent. And then if you get it, trust me, you graduate because you see it in your bank account. And that's what I love about business versus life coaching. Success leaves clues. So if it's not in your bank account, you're not ready to learn it.
Correct. Absolutely. And it can come around and bite you on the ass. If you think it's working, and then all of a sudden, I know we both had experiences like that. We're sort of going, I know.
I thought I even knew it,
You turn around and go, shit.
Humble pie.
Absolutely.
I knew it, but I didn't know it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. To know and not to implement is to not know.
Exactly.
You hear all the quotes, but until it actually happens to you, then you go, I know why someone came up with that. Yeah,
exactly. And you're like, I know that, and that's the danger for both of us in the teaching or mentoring or whatever title people give it is you see this in medicine. The doctors know everything, but they're the most unhealthy people. And that's the danger for us too, is like because we know it, we think we're doing it, right? But we're not. So we have to get mentors as well then to keep us accountable for that. And that's back to see what is the magic sauce, is you got to get a mentor to see you from the outside, and catch you.
Yeah, Mike Tyson says everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
That's
And
right.
then you know what? And then some people never recover from that punch in the face.
Yeah.
And some people
Yep.
in life, some people get hit in a way that they never been hit like that before, and they will never recover. They don't know how to recover. So. The interesting thing about this particular platform, which we are streaming to Facebook, is that everybody just shows the generally the positive side to their lives. This is what I'm doing, and this is all this good sort of stuff. And my greatest lessons have probably not been learnt there. They've been learnt in times of woe, the times of uncertainty, the willingness for myself to explore what happened in that failing moment, and that lesson that I need to learn. So that I can sort of go, great, I've learnt the lesson now. Now I need to apply that into my life, apply that into a result, not just an emotion, which is always a little bit tricky. I'm an emotional sort of person, but
that's why we like each other.
I run these sessions with another friend of mine, and I sort of say, hey, listen, I'm the nice guy. I'm the friendly one. It's all about relationships. He's the numbers guy and the detail guy. So when he thinks something, it just comes straight out his mouth. We give you both perspectives from the business point of view.
Right.
I like it from the coaching perspective that you've really focused on it, because I see too many people just grasping onto too many things when it's not relevant for them yet. And it's more comes from an insecure coach just wanting to share knowledge, and it's his insecurities, and sort of saying, hey, listen, I'm just going to say this because it sounds wonderful. He gets the chemical reaction, but if you're really focused on the result, you'll restrain and you'll ask them better questions, get them to do the thinking to demonstrate whether or not, they're now ready for the next piece of knowledge. And I'll give them that, and I'll see that the way they apply that, the challenge that they've got come up. So how long did it take you to develop that blueprint?
Honestly, 38 years. Maybe take off 7 years, 31, because I was too young. So I'm 38 right now. So to be honest, it's my master work. And the more clients I've been failing with, who forgive me and come back and say, okay, I trust you're going to come up with a better answer for that strategy because it didn't work. And then being now in a position where I'm in 5 continents and seeing what's universally applicable, I can now put simplicity to it. You know what I mean? And that just needed 10,000 hours and just copious amount of negative feedback forms and frustrated staff and trainers who couldn't deliver at the standard I expected, and wondering, what did I do wrong to not impart the fundamentals for them to get the same transformation for their clients? And so and we're building we have a facilitation accreditation, and this is something I learned later, is like facilitation and coaching are 2 different things. But I think too often people are trying to jump to calling themselves a coach, but they don't have the posture of a facilitator. It doesn't work. Like now we have, the time we have allocated. That's why I asked, how long do I need to deliver a message? Whatever you give me, I should get through to the result. That's what a facilitator does. A teacher doesn't do that, you see. So to answer your question, it's honestly been a lifetime of work. And I really feel like even now that I'm sharing this with you, I explained it in a way, hopefully, that was better than I explained it last week, because it's just come to the surface since COVID, when I was driven to create online content and structure my experiences, that this thing was like a built Swiss watch, and then you're like, something's missing. And then just like 2 months ago, the lid was put on top, which is that thing you've just seen. So too often people see this 4 quadrants and they go, that makes sense. But you can see inside there's mechanics of failures that have allowed me to put those 4 jumps into 9 steps, and that's just taken 38 years, and including a massive divorce that just totally made me question even what success was. And as you said, I feel I need to bring that into the dialogue more with people. It's like, you learn more from your failures than your success, like you said. And I think too often business owners who are successful have ulcers, health issues, divorce issues. Even Bezos, Amazon just went through a recent thing, and most of us have bankruptcies. I've already gone through 2 bankruptcies, but we don't sell that because it doesn't sell. But there's never been an overnight success in anyone I've ever interviewed that's making 7 figures and above. None. So
Sorry, say that last part again.
There's never been an overnight success in any of the success stories of the people I've worked with. There's always been failure and learning from those to create lessons that they just kind of navigate better over time. And then they say it so simply, like, yes, just 4 jumps to business. And you're like, oh, of course. No. It's 38 years of failure to summarize it into these jumps to even understand now that, wow, I wish I could teach this earlier, that, as you said, stay in your lane, little things like that. Slow is fast. These terms are so simple, but you really need 10,000 hours to comprehend what they mean, and even now I'm still figuring them out. Does that make sense?
It does. Crazy. Do you remember the movie The Karate Kid?
Yeah, my favorite. Yeah, wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, right? So at the time, the kid is going, what the hell am I doing? And he's painting, he's going wax on, wax off. And there's a section in the movie where he just goes, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to do this. And he walks off. He walks off and he no longer does the job. He's no longer, I can't remember if he's cleaned the car or, I think he's waxing the car.
Yeah. And He quit.
He just said he quits. He walks away, and then he has a challenge, and then he ends up coming back, and then realizing what this was. Now I understand. It's defense, but he needed 2 things. He didn't understand the what he was learning. He should have just stayed in his own lane and just practice the basics. My football coach did the same thing. I played for a very competitive school, and when I went to school, he just used to take us on doing all these drills, and they didn't involve using the football. And the captain sort of said, "Hey, when are we going to start, actually doing some drills with the ball?" And he's like, "Well, when you master the basics." Yeah. And we just got sick and tired of it. And he said, "Okay, I get it. I want you to meet me on Thursday, and I'm going to take the school bus, and we'll travel down." And we'll go and see someone. Anyway, we jumped in the bus and we're all traveling down, a bus full of rowdy boys sort of thing. We get to the Oval, and it's of a major football team. And the funny thing was they were practicing exactly the same drills we were. Wow. And we all shut up after that and sort of went, right, we get it. So we all thought, well, we can do these, and clearly we couldn't do these to the master sort of level. And so we questioned him, and then he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll drive you down. And he was actually using the same sort of handbook that like the number 1 football team at the time was using, right? The same playbook.
Oh, yeah.
And we just said, right, we get it. And it was that sort of learning that then we started sort of going, and that stuck with me for such a very, very long time, a very big life lesson. So the simplicity of your 4 different jumps that everybody has seen today has been an example of, but it took 30, it sounds simple now.
Yeah, I know. I wish
38 years to find simplicity. Right? When I think of the beautiful PD, the Porsche gearbox, and drivetrain. Beautiful. It just works seamlessly. But you know what? It's taken hundreds of years to perfect. It doesn't get that way easily. You can't just copy those types of things. So, hey, I ask everybody when they come onto the show, what's one sort of goodie that they could give away, or what would you like people to do, or where can they get more sort of knowledge about what you've just shared today? So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm seeing this show and I'm sort of going, wow, that's really gelled with me, but I want to know more. Where would I go?
Yeah, well, first step would be my website, which is lot360.com. I can share that with you later. You can pass it on. Or just, I'm really fortunate, Glenn. I don't know, I've been in 2 phases. One phase, I was like, there's no such thing as luck. But to be honest, I'm a farm boy from Africa. Freaking hell, I speak a language I was never born with, and now I speak Indonesian, which there's a little bit of something in the universe is nudging me on in the right way to meet people like you. So I think luck still plays a part. but preparedness and luck is where opportunity lies for me, right? So for me, it's like, yeah, jump on the website to check it out, but maybe perhaps if you're open, and this is where I'm at now with contribution, I decided to create a free online workshop on Zoom where anyone can log in for free. I go for 1 hour and I just go into a little bit more detail around the top level tools I use in each of those jumps. And my goal there is just to get people have a wet enough appetite to start taking entrepreneurship as a serious career, not just a job to make money, because it's going to have to be a journey if you really want to get, I call it 3 rewards of entrepreneurship when you hit the success level, whatever success means. Number 1, lifestyle change is obvious. You make money, you can live in Bali, I travel the world the way I like to travel. Once upon a time, I was looking at places going, why are those people traveling and I can't even get into a car? That's where I started. So lifestyle change is 1. But number 2 is, character. I'm not the same person I hope you met 20 years ago when I first met you. I had more insecure. I mean, I still have insecurities. So I'm doing relationship coaching at the moment. That's a journey for another time. I got to work on that section. But my character changed. I'm punctual. I communicate. I'm confrontational. I mean, this is not something I was when I was before. And I have a good sense of who I am and who I'm not. But the third, which a lot of people miss a lot in entrepreneurship that's not so celebrated, is contribution to society. When you have more, you can give more, And so for me, when you come onto this live course for 60 minutes, I want to try and sell the concept of these are the 3 rewards for entrepreneurship, but you got to go through these jumps and there's no skipping any of them. Because if you do, you get fucked and then you have to go back again. So why not just build it right from the get-go, and then you never have to go back jumps to get back to what is so sad now. In COVID times, people have gone back to getting a job. They've forgotten how to hunt, and this is where the true entrepreneurship is coming back. Because now there are bigger problems, but guess what? For entrepreneurs like us, that means bigger problems to solve in business. This is the best time to be an entrepreneur, because now what used to be, I was calling people, Nelson Mandela Foundation, for example, they never wanted to hear from me. Now they call me.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for ways of making sustainable income through community projects. I've been doing it for the last XYZ years, but nobody wanted to hear about it. So for me, it's like, bigger problems to solve. And I'm going to probably do 10, 20, 30 times better, because now every business has real problems and they have to come to you or me or somebody. And my hopes are like I can equip more people to be capable to solve problems. And that's what I think an entrepreneur can do. And then together we will solve this COVID issue or any other issue. And that's why I think entrepreneurs can solve all problems. I really do. The course. So sorry, I got passionate and digressed. But
no.
The 60 minutes.
This show has always gone. Sorry, it's definitely gone over. That's fine.
Yeah,
We're coming up
nice. We'll do another one, because I need you on my show too, right? So my point was just simply put, 60 minutes to sell that concept of do your journey and sell out to the journey, not to the destination. That's what that 60 minutes is about. And I hope
and embracing that 60 minutes, embracing minute 7, minute 21, minute 34, minute 47. It's really hard to predict where magic happens, but I can tell you though, that if you commit to the hour, magic will definitely happen with Aaron. All right.
Absolutely.
So I'll put a link below that will take you through to his website. But if you've enjoyed any one key of this particular section, for me, it was probably to see that you've continued on that journey about giving. Because I remember when you were, you had a goal of, providing all these wells all throughout Africa.
Yeah.
The water.
Built already. Yeah.
Correct. But your passion for that type of magnitude, something on a large scale, hasn't changed. All right. There's always been this deep desire. Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I've seen a lot less people do it. All right. Me too. So when Aaron talks about giving an hour away, you're talking about someone who is a global leader, now running a business in 5 continents, managing, well, as you said before, a full-time staff of 15, but students all around the world and connecting.
It's nuts. 500 plus. Yeah.
Correct. So this is a great opportunity for you. If you've got an idea, or you've implemented something and you've hit a roadblock, to just reach out to someone who's been there, done that, had those mistakes, had those failures, been able to apply the knowledge he's had from those and build and capitalize on that. Because it's only a failure if you just keep doing it. And it's very, very sad that you would keep going around the same fishbowl going, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why not reach out to someone? You've got someone who wants to pass on that particular knowledge. And Aaron has very generously offered. So where would they find that link? So if they go onto the website, where do they find that?
They'll go to, well, I think the best way probably would be, I mean, Facebook, the event's already up. So if you go to Lot 360 Facebook page, the event for Facebook is already there with all the details and the links and whatever. But if they go to the website just to see more about the leadership panel, I go into more detail about that, so they can just download that tool or screenshot it. I don't mind. I'm really giving away a lot of these tools because its implementation is where I make money. The information in itself is so. I'll just dish it. We got courses coming out of my ears, but they can go to the contact page and basically say, yeah, interested in this workshop, and then just register there. And my team will send them a confirmation so that get that. So that would be a good place for them to do that. And we just find it's easier because then you can also say what your concerns are. And then what I do is I prepare some quick Q&As with some of the problems people have. But the best place to put that information is through the website. Contact us. Okay. And then just put what problem you want me to solve. Then I'll come in with that intention and say, John from Perth said this. And look, when I was at that stage, you're definitely still at stage 2. This is the tool you need. And I'll give it away. I really... For me, it's challenging myself to say I want to answer any question anyone asks me and give them the right tool to solve that problem. That's my coach's challenge for me this year. Is do I really have the capacity to get to it?
As we've seen on this particular call, I learned something about my own app, that I can share, that I don't actually share my screen. Aaron can share his. So thanks very much, mate. Always
problem. Let me add, man. I'm actually already Googling this. I'll come back with more tips for you on this. I'm already hacking in. I've been playing around with this since we've been talking. I'm a nerd. One of the can't help it.
Is why do you like StreamYard? And I started rattling off, and I'm like, well, now I love it because I receive so many emails, and you can just share your screen. So thanks very much. Hey, Aaron,
you're welcome.
Pleasure. Time just seems to always just go.
I know. Let's do this again. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Hi, everybody. My name is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off till next Tuesday. Remember to make, build, and share connections. See you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Cheers.